last, you're back, you incompetent egoist. Give me my file.
This, the precious brain fluid, and I thought you were waiting for...
Hold to open!
Yes, and what do you do?
Nasty creatures, vicious teeth, chew it all up, bone and all in one go.
Claptrap. The talents of these geniuses should be harnessed to a superior vision.
Oh, do stop squabbling and get on with it.
Here come the drums!
So here it comes, the sound of drums. Here come the drums, here come the drums.
Dun 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 dun.
Hello and welcome to Pull to Open, where we do the Sound of Drums live in every podcast, and we are on a random quest through all of Doctor Who history. We're watching the entire show in extremely random and yet somehow not so random order. And my name is Chris Taylor.
My name's Pete Paschal, and yeah, Chris and I are both writers, fans, journalists. We've been addicted to Doctor Who for a long time, decades at this point. We occasionally write about the show, but we always have lots to say about it, and that's what we try to do here.
Yeah, and we have a very special episode of Pull to Open today because
Finally.
yeah, the other one's just slightly special, but this is on a very special episode of Pull to Open. Chris is back in the UK visiting his family, so normally I am 3 hours behind Pete. Now I am 5 hours ahead of him in the UK, and it turns out to be a very, very fortuitous Doctor Who story that we are talking about this week. The only Doctor Who story to be set in my part of the UK. But first of all, Pete, give us a previously on.
Yeah, previously I pulled to open, and I'm sorry, I was going to whistle God Save the Queen when you said you were in the UK, and I just realized I don't know how to do that.
We'll fix it in post.
Totally. But previously on Pull to Open, yes, 3 episodes ago we were at Frontios, the edge of the universe, the edge of the space-time parameters in the TARDIS, that the randomizer saw fit to pull us back into the 1970s, I guess. I don't know. It was the unit era. It was the Claws of Axis, which was a great thing to reflect on at the very least. But it was also a great episode of Pull to Open because we had our guest Nathan Bottomley.
Also a very special episode.
Very special episode. Go back and listen to that. Nathan has his own podcast called Flight Through Entirety. So while you're subscribing to us, go ahead and subscribe to his as well. But it was a great time, great commentary all around. And then Nathan's randomizer with an S, not a Z or Z, depending on where you're listening to this, decided to take us to the Romans. So we bypassed our own randomizer, used Nathan's randomizer. We went back to the classical period in AD 64, where the Doctor was basically a time meddler, and led to the burning of the city there. So
burn down Rome, Doctor. Something to answer for there.
We had to skedaddle out of there in a hurry, though, and we're now at the Mock of the Rani, season 22, serial 3. Season, and interestingly enough, season 22 just came out on Blu-ray, I believe.
Oh, wow.
That might be a reason why the randomizer brought us here, come to think of it.
Isn't that weird? There are lots of reasons, you know. Sometimes I think, eventually this whole randomizer, it's going to be a bit of a stretch to find connections. But we keep finding super spooky stuff, like me being here in the place where the Mark of Rani is supposedly set, wasn't actually filmed, but I am in George Stephenson country, and the Mark of the Rani is a lot about one of the founders of the Industrial Revolution, co-inventor of the first steam engine, George Stephenson. So
yeah, he did a lot of stuff. I thought you were going to say you were in George Stephenson's house.
Yeah.
Or something.
Well, close to that, I am. We should talk about this because, YouTube viewers, which we got something to say about YouTube in a second, but YouTube viewers will notice that I'm not in my usual blue background and Pull to Open framed poster behind me. I am, in fact, in a hotel room. The hotel room is in a 14th century castle. So this would also have worked for the State of Decay episode, I guess.
Nice, yeah. Very castle-y. Lots of castles going on there.
There's a bit of a vampire vibe going on here. So, yeah.
Not from the color of your walls there, but I guess it's kind of hard to tell because you got the flat screen and you do have that very old school looking light fixture behind you. So that's
Yes,
a bit of a
yes.
hint.
Yeah, and you can sort of see behind me the courtyard. Maybe you can see the roofs. Um, there
Not
are
too much
several
light, but
courtyards.
the
Yeah,
tapestry like drapes
yeah,
are selling it a little bit.
that's right.
That's
And
cool.
you can definitely tell it's the UK because there's a kettle on that windowsill.
We'll tell you what,
Yeah.
take some shots of the exterior and we'll throw
Yes.
them up on an Instagram story.
Yeah,
Let's do
yeah.
that.
Come to Lumley Castle for all your cream tea needs. They
Hmm.
do great afternoon teas, and they have a library, an ancient library that's become a bar. It's fantastic.
Cool. So are you feeling a little bit of that 19th century vibe somewhere
Oh,
around there?
oh, definitely. You can't be in North without feeling a little 19th century vibe, unless you're in the North watching the Mark of Rani and you're wincing so hard at the accents that that you're like what, especially as you're re-encountering those accents. But anyway, we'll get to that.
We'll get
We'll
into
get
it. We'll get into
to
it for
Mark and
sure.
Rani, but we've been away for a while.
We
It's
have.
our first show back since beginning of June, I believe, and yeah, we got some new reviews.
We do. Yeah, we waited long enough. Hey guys, this is a podcast, as you know. If you haven't subscribed, there's probably a button somewhere. Go ahead and hit that. And in addition to that, you may want to leave a review. That would be very valuable to us. If you are know anything about podcasts, they live and die by the reviews that they have on the Apple Podcast Store in particular. So if you don't mind, hit the pause button. Go ahead, leave a quick review. It could really be one word. It could be one emoji, whatever you
Yeah,
like. Just go ahead and throw it in there. Or you
yeah,
could write something about what you like or don't like about the show, as this person did. Someone named, well, the handle is Road Safety Instructor, which
maybe
is,
that actually is his name.
it could
Mister
be
Mister Road Safety Instructor to you.
initials RSI. Um, and Road Safety Instructor says, no matter if I'm driving or lounging around, this podcast always seems to find its way into my speakers.
Hmm.
Mainly growing up on the new era of Doctor Who, the classic era always seemed like an afterthought when thinking about this series. This
Hmm.
podcast has helped to inspire my new fondness of all the classic era's aspects I once thought of as weaknesses. No
Hmm.
matter the cheap sets or dodgy special effects, I can now see the charm and care put into the classic era of Doctor Who. Special thanks to TikTok for bringing this wonderful Doctor Who experience in front of my eyes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a great review, and I think it sort of highlights a number of things that we didn't expect when we started doing Pull to Open. One of them being that we'd be big on TikTok.
Right.
That kind of came out of nowhere. And one of the others being that we would sort of serve as a conduit, as it were, between fans of the new series. I'm not necessarily going to say younger fans because they might, there's a lot of fans of different ages of the new series
For sure.
who have this experience of just you kind of don't think of that 1963 to 1989 thing. You're kind of aware of it. There's certain ways it leaks into the new show, but you can easily watch the new show without ever seeing a classic episode. So yeah, we're glad to help you think about it.
Yeah, it's one of those strange advantages of doing this in such random order. And,
Mm,
there's any number of podcasts out there that sort of take on the series by going through it chronologically, either
yeah.
from the very beginning or just the new era. And that's fine. Those are great podcasts. And one of Nathan's is one of them, by the way. And he's
Yeah.
well into the new era. So he's done a lot.
Mm,
Um, but doing this randomly, I think is sort of opens the door to different eras for different people. I actually know, I'm such an old school fan. I know people who were fans of the old series and were just, oh, that new series is so lame. It's
yeah.
Doctor Who in name only kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know if we've reached any of those. It would be great to hear from you if we did, if maybe you were a
Yeah.
classic series fan and
I hadn't
maybe
thought of
you've been
that.
convinced to check out the new series. That would be interesting, if you haven't yet. But I do love that we're sort of functioning as this bit of a conduit of new Who fans into old Who. And I'm really glad old Who is actually available, whether it's
Mm,
BritBox or something else. You can actually buy the old seasons now on Blu-ray, like I mentioned
mm,
before. There's so many ways to find the show and appreciate it, and
mm.
certainly,
I have,
I
I
guess
have
you
a
might
word
call
or
this,
two to say about BritBox
yeah.
this week, by the way, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
But
Specifically, BritBox in the UK. We'll get
Yeah. So like
Mm.
here in the post Twitch era, I guess,
Mm.
ever since the classic series was run there, we're
Yep.
kind of
Yeah.
in a good way. There's demand enough for the classic series that it's very findable. So we're glad to give people the impetus to find it.
Indeed. So for our first 50 reviews, one of those first 50 reviews will win our prize. We've been steadily winnowing down what this prize is. It's something that Pete has as an avid Doctor Who collector. It is something unique. It is something you'll not find anywhere online. Very hard to find on eBay, right?
Yeah, you might find it like on
yeah,
eBay or something. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
here and there.
It's here and there, but it's a rare thing. So if you're a Doctor Who fan, you should love whatever this prize is. And what is it? We have narrowed it down to its new series,
Hmm.
or rather, there's the thing in it is it straddles new and old. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean,
Is that what we
you
said?
could. I mean, it's from the new series, but again, I don't want to reveal too
Overplay your
much, but
hand.
yes,
Yeah.
it's the thing. It also features in the old series at times.
Okay. And we narrowed it down to it's smaller than a bread box. That was Nathan's contribution. It
Yep.
is mineral, an animal, vegetable, mineral, and what it represents. Um, and we narrow it down to a Scottish doctor, or was it Scottish or no?
Yes and no,
Yes
because it
and
not
no.
only straddles old and new Who, it straddles doctors in New
Right. And then did I say Moffat or RTD? And
Who.
you
Did you?
did
I
I?
don't know. I can't remember. Did we
I,
write these
I
doon? You got to start taking notes.
Start listening to our own podcast, my friend.
Tell you what, I could answer that question.
Yeah.
And if it turns out I already answered it, maybe you get a bonus question next week.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
Okay. That's
All right.
a great. Yeah. Do write in. Let us know,
All
fans.
right.
Our super fans will let us know. I'm sure. They're already typing right now. Yeah. So
So if the question is
the
it
question is
RTD
it
or
RTD?
Moffat? Oh, is it RTD?
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Okay. All right. So something from the Moffat era,
Right.
or the Chibnall era.
Or the Chibnall era.
Or the Chibnall era, but but you did actually just confirm Moffat, so I think that I think I've got my bonus.
All righty.
Yeah, that's a bonus right there.
Moving on.
Moving on to YouTube. Things have been
Yeah.
happening on YouTube. You may even be watching us on YouTube because we're growing like gangbusters.
Yeah, we're also easier to find on YouTube.
Tiny gangbusters, but still.
Yeah, we've had an upgrade to our YouTube experience. So you guys can find us at youtube.com/pull-to-open. That is our official YouTube URL. And of course, all of our current when did we start uploading YouTube? Basically, we have a lot of episodes on YouTube of the podcast. We have all of season 1, which was the non-random era. It was actually rather short. It was about 5 episodes of the podcast. And I've been promising someday season 2 will be up there. Well, that day has come, Pull to Open listeners, viewers. We will be uploading season 2 when the random era began with, God, what was it? Planet of Fire, right? Was that it?
Planet of Fire, yeah, that's when we began our random journey. That was the very first random destination.
So, starting with Planet of Fire, in a few days after this podcast goes up, you'll see it. So this goes up on a Saturday. You'll see it on a Wednesday, and then on subsequent Wednesdays, you'll see episodes of season 2 go up. So we'll stagger them out. We're not exactly Stranger Things here. We're going to do it week by week. So I'm sorry for those that love to binge. You might have to wait a while to binge all of season 2, but it'll be well worth it because we're also going to put on probably a few extra videos, some of those early episodes. We had only just started doing the TikTok videos with Planet of Fire, and we were doing like 1 or 2 at the time. And we'll see if we can, now that we're going over the old footage, we're going to see if we can get more and more of those out when we upload the YouTube videos.
And I believe that we have the TLDWs, one of our most popular segments.
Yes.
Too Long Doctor Who, Too Long Didn't Watch, where we summarize the show in roughly 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. We'll explain it when we get to it, but but they're pulled
They
out as
know.
separate.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows how this works. You've pulled them out separately as YouTube videos, yeah.
Yeah, they're all in a playlist. So we have a
Yeah.
playlist we conveniently called our pull to open Doctor Who plot summaries. And TLDW will probably bring it up too because we got a tag on there. But yeah, they're all conveniently in a playlist. If you want to do them one after another, that's great. We've noticed people sometimes like to just binge those. So now it's super convenient for you.
Yeah.
Oh, and guys, you probably noticed this if you are watching this on YouTube, but we have a new opening for the podcast. Perhaps inspired by a certain movie franchise. Go ahead and
Hmm.
guess which one.
Certain,
Or
would it be a certain movie franchise that Doctor Who is supposed to turn into next year?
that's what we're demanding. We are demanding the multiverse. But no, it's super fun. It was actually super fun to cut it. And let us know what you think of it. We're always looking to improve things and give you guys a better experience related to that, related to the videos and everything.
But Pete,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
what people often say to me though is, what if I can't stand YouTube and but I want to watch the video, and somehow
Right.
randomly I'm on Spotify. Is there any way we can watch you on Spotify? I hear from people
Oh
all the time.
well, I don't want to overpromise, but if all goes well, our first viewers on Spotify video podcasts will be seeing us right now. So
What?
we'll see how it goes. We
This?
haven't done this before, and we haven't done it yet. Now that we're doing it, so if it doesn't happen, we might have to do some editing all around. But it's that we're going to be on Spotify video podcasts, everybody. And so if you want to watch us instead of listen to us, or watch and listen to us rather, and you don't want to give your data to the big G in Silicon Valley for some reason, I hear
the big
that's
YT.
some people are not as into that. You now have Spotify to watch and enjoy. So enjoy.
Indeed, and if it will happen, right? I mean, it's just any particular episode, it could happen. And if there's any kind of podcast where it's okay to have a looser relationship with time, and deadlines, it's a Doctor Who
Totally.
podcast. So that's YT and S. How about TT?
TT is so good. So here on the TikToks, where we're most active, we actually haven't been active for a while. So that said, we have hit 7,400 followers there, which is great. Despite being on hiatus, still looking at 10K. Keeping an eye on it. We'll definitely upgrade our presence there as well. Once we hit that big number, we're very confident that we'll get there. And we've been out for a while, but we do have a TikTok comment of the week, or should I say month, I guess. So the last set of videos we uploaded were all about the Romans, and it includes this one from someone with the handle Josh Martell 2. So this was on the video where we talked about Eden and Barbara, and shall we say their obvious intimate relationship that perhaps at least began in the Romans.
As
not
intimate
exclusively.
as it could get in 1964, 5, or whatever that one was.
Yeah, exactly.
Mid-60s
So,
BBC.
Josh Martell says, I love how one of the River song Big Finish audios has River flirting with both Ian and Barbara. It made me laugh so hard when I heard it, which I was like, I highlighted this comment because I didn't even realize that happened.
Yeah.
I'm actually super excited to check this out now.
Have we? Because I know it's the Diary of River Song, isn't it? That's the Big Finish series.
Right. Yeah. And she meets doesn't quite meet because they can't quite do that. I actually don't know how it goes, but like apparently it involves old doctors, old companions.
It does. She's pretty much worked her way through all of them.
She gets around. Though I haven't listened to them, so I don't know, but I assume she doesn't meet any of them because obviously it wasn't until Tennant that the two actually meet, at least according to him. So.
Yeah. It's you can always mind wipe the Doctor. This is what we've learned. He's pretty erasable.
Oh, does she have one of those like? What is that? Men in Black.
The Men in Black. Yeah, exactly. Look into this, Doctor.
Thing.
I mean, she does have. We know from the Husbands of River Song, she does have that wallet full of all of his pictures. So she's clearly been stalking all of his regenerations, at least post Timeless Child. regenerations.
Yeah, she's a
Little
time
does she
stalker.
know, little does she know how much more she has to stalk now, and how much more variety of stalking she can do with the Doctor. Only she knew. All right, I believe there
Yeah.
may be one other question that has almost become its own segment
Wow,
on
you're
the Pull to
inviting
Open.
it.
I'm inviting
Okay.
it. I'm bringing
Well, I'm just here. It is, guys. You've been waiting. This is the moment you've been waiting for.
it.
Chris, have you seen Legend of the Sea Devils?
Yes!
Oh, ding ding
Yay!
ding ding ding!
Ding, ding, ding. Balloons fall from the ceiling, confetti. Yes, I
Amazing.
finally saw it, and let me tell you why. I'm in the
Okay.
UK.
It's
Where
required. It's actually you
it's
can't get into the country.
yeah,
That's one of the customs questions, I believe.
they had to pull me into a little room out of customs and just make sure that I had actually seen it. So I did. I watched it on iPlayer,
Nice. That's what you do
and
there.
that's what you do. That's what you can do here if you pay the license fee. Um,
What do they
and
do? What do tourists pay the license fee? Do we do? I don't even
no,
know.
no, but my family has paid the license fee, so
Ah, I
I'm kind of
see. There you go.
piggybacking on that, and I've paid
Got it.
license fee in the
All right.
past. You know,
Hide
it's
your
fine.
ears, government. What's the agency?
Oh, I'm not even sure anymore. They used to talk about the TV detective vans. That was a
TV
thing
detective
in the
ads. Oh
80s when
yeah,
they
it was.
detect to
I
see
didn't.
if there was, did they do that in the US as well? I don't know.
No, but they did that in remembrance of the Daleks. So
Ah!
we'll get to there. We'll get to there.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, it's Legend of the Sea Devils. Yeah, it's given how much you've downplayed it over the. It must be months at this stage. Probably 10 pull to opens since it actually screened. Uh, I actually enjoyed it.
Oh wow, okay, that's
Yeah,
good. I'm glad
yeah.
you alone. No, I don't want to be that hard on it. Yeah, there's
Pete was
enjoyable
the
stuff.
greatest episode of Doctor Who I've ever seen.
I mean,
No,
the randomizer will bring us there eventually. But what was the thing you liked the most about it?
I thought it was beautifully shot.
It was, yeah, it was
Um,
pretty gorgeous.
kind of liked the main Sea Devil dude in it.
Okay,
He was pretty scary.
had some good
Uh,
lines,
he had some good
like
lines.
land crawler or something.
The
Land.
glowing sword was really cool.
Hmm.
Dan in the pirate costume, not, eh,
Pushing
but
it.
at least there was a reason for that. And the Doctor and Yaz, I think you did sort of hint at this.
Hmm.
There was more Doctor and Yaz that I very much enjoyed about either of the Daleks. And yeah, it really worked. It worked for me.
All right.
Their relationship, and also the Doctor sort of coming clean about the problems the relationship had a kind of a nice Highlander feel. I felt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It wants to live forever.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. Well, I'm
And the
glad it came
Doctor
together for you.
narrowing it down to like there's I just can't get tied down to anything. And I love the line about oh yeah, including my wife. I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Uh,
very good.
yeah.
I love how Doctor Who does that. It sort of comes out and says things, and then it sort of plants a seed. I mean, we already kind of had bits of
Mm.
that before, but it was like you can interpret that however you want. I guess
And the
she's talking about River, but
yeah,
it could be someone before or something. I don't know.
or the TARDIS,
Yeah, yeah, there's
Idris.
that too. There's a lot of possibilities. You can unpack that in a lot of ways, but that is not what we are here to do
No,
this week.
I'm
But we're all
stalling for you
relieved.
here, Pete.
I know. But again, it just goes to show lowering the expectations is really
It
where
really
you
does
want to
work.
go.
I'll say one more thing. That ocean
Mhm.
floor scene, absolutely spectacular.
Oh, just how it looked.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah, it is a good looking episode. Yeah,
the fact that the Doctor has finally sort of figured out how to put an oxygen bubble around the TARDIS, all these years after Legopolis, when he was going to flood the TARDIS by landing on
right,
the bottom of the Thames. Nice to see that that they don't let themselves do that anymore.
right.
Yeah, so that was sweet. But yes, we are procrastinating on the what is for many the most exciting part of the show, which is
Mhm.
TLDW. Too long Doctor Who, too long didn't watch, and we take it in turns.
We
And
do.
this week, Pete, I believe. it is your turn.
I was hoping you wouldn't remember.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is my turn. And I guess I have to summarize the Mark of the Rani, the episode we are here to talk about. And I think this one is. We always say this. It's probably straightforward. It's probably an easy one. But I feel like one, it that's never true. It's always like the
Mhm.
ones that you think aren't going to get you in trouble that get you in trouble.
Yep.
Two, I actually watched this one some time ago,
Aha.
so now I'm a little like, oh, okay. Now I have to remember what the actual story was. Okay, I think I sort of do. I mean, again, it's not. It doesn't have a ton of moving around different settings or whatever. So I think I got it, but
It does
we'll
have
see.
a ton of insane rabbit holes you could jump down there.
It's true.
Yeah. So yeah, watch out for those. But this is it's a classic show, but it was weirdly 45-minute episodes.
Yeah, the one season they
And
did that in
yeah,
the classic.
and we already encountered this with Attack of the Cybermen, um, which shares an interesting connection with the Mark of the Rani. We'll get to that. Um, and yeah, so we're generous and we give 1 minute per 45-minute episode. Even in the new show, it's more like 50. All right, so Pete, you have 2 minutes in which to summarize the whole of story of the Mark of the Rani.
All
Are you
right,
ready?
let me disappear all of my windows real
Oh
quick.
yeah, this is a very
Hold
essential
on.
part of
No
TLDW.
notes.
No notes.
All memory.
We are
We
flying
can do
blind.
this. We can
Yep.
do this. Okay, 2 minutes. Got it.
All right. Are you ready? In
As I'll
3,
ever be.
2, 1, go.
Okay, the TARDIS is pulled off course, or encouraged to be pulled off course. I forget. They're going to go to Kew Gardens sometime in the past. They instead go to somewhere in rural England in the Industrial Revolution, and something weird is happening in this town called Killingworth, and people are getting super violent and wrecking machinery. Essentially, these are Luddites who seem to be worried about their jobs, but they're not. They're actually being taken and
30
captured
seconds.
briefly by someone who is taking brain fluid out of them so they can't sleep and turning them violent. Who is this? It looks like an old crone, but it's actually someone in disguise. It's the Rani, a time lady who is callous and has been exiled from the Time Lords, and the Master has actually tracked her down here, and he wants to basically form an alliance with her so that they can work together to create a power base, some kind of platform, so that he can use Earth to conquer the rest of the cosmos.
1
But
minute.
obviously, they need to get rid of the Doctor first, so they attract him there and then lure him into various traps with the violent people, and through all this sort of doing things in the town in the time period, the Doctor encounters George Stevenson, who is actually getting ready for a gathering of geniuses, including Michael Faraday and Humphrey Davy, and the Master wants to capture all these geniuses and use them as sort of the intellectual part of his power base plan. The Doctor and Perry
90
work
seconds.
together to stop the Master and the Rani. They narrowly escape being turned into trees through these crazy tree mines that the Rani somehow has. And then the Doctor has screwed up her TARDIS, so when they flee, the two of them, the Master and the Rani, that they get thrown into the far reaches of the galaxy, and these T-Rex embryos come out, and from that the Rani just happens to have in her console room, and they're in danger, and the Doctor and Perry give the brain fluid back to the people
And
to fix the people, and they leave.
Hey, that was great. You
Okay.
definitely you got pulled off course, I think,
At least once.
a few times in that, or you were encouraged to be pulled off course.
Yeah.
But other than that, there were some areas of that where you're just flying and you had it. Like I watched this yesterday and I didn't I couldn't summarize what the hell the Master was doing in this. So you got that. You got the
Yeah.
meeting. You even got the names of some of the other geniuses.
Right. Well, yeah, that always I found very intriguing. Like, this is, one of the most it's not a pure historical, but it's one of the most historical
Yeah,
episodes of Doctor. At least it's trying to be. And this
it's
is
trying to be.
yeah,
It's an important distinction.
it's got ambition to be, a little bit educational, and I think it succeeds a little bit. But
Yeah,
then when they mention those people, particularly Faraday, it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is an interesting idea to gather these people
yeah.
together. gotta say, not to start with the criticisms right off the bat, that is one of the weaknesses. Like, you never actually see any of those guys other than Stevenson.
Well, probably a good thing too, because Stevenson and Humphrey Davy fought like cats and dogs their entire life, and
Huh?
would never have gone to a meeting together. Stevenson,
Really?
yes. So the
Wow.
Davy lamp. The whole world probably knows, or at least the coal mining world. It's the first lamp that miners could use without the gas from the lamp.
Oh,
Igniting
okay.
an explosion, and it basically Humphrey Davy had this design with mesh all around it, and George Stephenson simultaneously came up with an idea for a miner's lamp,
Okay.
and
Oh
it had holes
no.
rather than mesh, and it was the patent or the
Yeah.
accolade was basically awarded um, to Davy because he was an educated gentleman, and George Stephenson
Oh,
was a self-educated oik,
right. Well,
and
as he says in the episode at one
mm,
point, where he's praising Luke, who he thinks is going to outshine him as a genius because
mm,
he's had that a better education from the start, but he had to teach himself
yep.
essentially how to read and do all the
It's
sciencey
one
stuff.
of the few things that that this story actually gets right about George Stevenson. Yes, he was a self-made man. But
Okay,
yeah,
well, let's get it. Let's not quite. Let's
yeah.
a little early for Chris's history corner.
Sorry,
Let's
sorry
hold
about
on.
that.
We
So
could we
excited.
could get into it, but I think we should give a little background to the episode
Yeah,
first and
yeah.
set it up a bit. So this is the first story that is written by Pip and Jane Baker, who were quite the team
Hmm.
in sort of the Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy era, and I think they went on to do parts of Trial of the Time Lord
Yeah.
and Time in the Rani, which is the Rani's like second
Right.
appearance. And I will say this, they have some strengths and they have some weaknesses. And
Yeah.
I think the strength is honestly a lot of the characterization. I think they understand character writing and they understand the characters they're writing for.
Hmm.
And when it works, as I think it does here between the Doctor and Perry and the Master and the Rani, in various scenes, it's delightful or fun or diabolical, and depending on the scene.
Hmm.
What they get wrong, I think, is for starters some dialogue. I think so. They're not. They need a second draft on various things, and there are some dialogue disasters. I don't think by coincidence in all of the episodes they've
Hmm.
written, and they also
Very,
just have
very clunky.
trouble stringing all their ideas together. Honestly, I think this one there's a certain pointlessness to this one that seems sort of it kind of never goes above a certain level of tension.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be leading somewhere, and then it sort of peters out rather than comes to a climax. And I feel like that again, this might be just this adventure, but it is one of those things that if your episode is feeling that way, you really should take another stab at it.
Yeah, it is amazing that this made it through the process. Like, how many people would have to be asleep at the wheel? Eric Saywood supposedly hated
Right.
Pippa Jane Baker, and he was the
Really? He was a
yeah,
script editor, yeah.
yeah. So he was not a fan, but also it doesn't look like he's done that much to fix it. I mean, this is
I
just
know.
yeah.
It seems like maybe was he trying to make them look bad on some of the things because
Mm,
there are just some blatant sort of Doctor Who continuity that Sayward should have caught. Like apparently I was the tissue compression eliminator.
yeah,
It
master's
never
wrapping.
shrinks anyone, not because they didn't have budget or made some decision. It was that no one knew. Like
Yeah,
apparently the director Sarah Hellings, no one told her that this thing shrinks people, and
yes,
and so it looks like the master's just disintegrating folks. I mean, you think at least Tony Ainley should have mentioned it. Like, actually, are you going to put a doll here or something?
yeah.
Because that's what this does. I don't know if anyone's
He
told you.
does rather seem like he's phoning it in at this stage.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just a job to him, and he's not. He's the master as a parody of the master in this, and really there was no point in bringing him in at all. I know that the
Yeah.
Rani started as his assistant in their writing process, um, but she
Mhm.
clearly quickly outshines him. Even in the script, I'm sure it's kind of obvious that she shines. You didn't
Yeah.
necessarily even need Kate O'Mara, who is wonderful in
Oh,
this.
she's amazing.
And
Yeah.
this is actually the first Rani story I've seen. because I'd not seen this or Time in the Rani.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I can understand the love that the fandom has for the Rani now. She's got some of the best lines in this,
For sure.
and she
And she-
knees the master in the bollocks, which is just, oh my
We've
god!
waited
First of
so
all,
long for
so
someone to
long.
do that.
Someone, if only the Doctor had done that all those years ago.
Just knee him in
Uh,
the nards. Boom.
she
Done.
did what the Doctor couldn't do. That is just such a wonderful scene. I can't even remember if he does anything to kind of even earn that. It's just she's so tired of him at this
Yeah.
stage. So this is of course of the first canon confirmation that at least the Master has balls, because they
It's
can be
true.
hurt. There is something between the Master's legs. That's all we know. Maybe it's the fact that he's actually Tremus from the Keeper of Traken, right?
Well, I mean,
But
not to go
also,
too far down this rabbit hole. Go ahead. What
no,
were you gonna
let's go down this rabbit hole, because he does at some point say, "I've got it. This thing kept safe. The thing that he's not blackmailing the Rani with, but the sleep chemical, the anti-sleep chemical. What even the hell is
Right.
it? But
Yeah.
the MacGuffin juice
Yeah.
is something that he's concealing on his person. I've got it safe next to my hearts. He says both of them.
Right.
So is he Tremus? Is he a Time Lord? Is he bit of both?
Right.
You know.
Bit of both. There's a lot of theories on that. So, well, I don't know if there's a lot. There's a couple. One is that it's Tremus's body. Like, you could just say like he's, it's from Traken. So who knows how many hearts they have? Although they've never made reference to Nissa having 2 hearts, so I think you could assume 1. Or because he was you kind of see the bodies merge on screen. It shares aspects of both. So it wasn't just like his mind consciousness goes into Tremus's body, because there's a physical change too. He becomes younger with a different beard. So I think you have to assume they sort of came together. That said, there's also the conundrum, and I want to get into this a bit later. I don't necessarily want to rant so early in our commentary, but there's the X factor of his body being burned to a crisp in
Oh god, yeah, in
Planet of Fire, and he's back. So arguably, this is even a newer body, like either regenerated or reconstructed his body via either the numismaton gas or some other process. So maybe he's come back in Time Lord form,
Right.
enhanced post Planet of Fire. We don't know. There's a lot of good theories on. I actually don't know if anyone's filled in like a missing adventure there, either a novel, a short story, or a comic book that might fill in that gap on sort of how the Master survived, and then sort of what that meant for him post Planet of. Okay, I'm gonna go into my rant now. God, I can't.
Do it.
Like this is it's kind of a bad Master episode for a lot of reasons.
So
It really
many
shouldn't have
ways, yeah.
happened, at least as a Master episode. But the fact that they simply bring the Master back after such a dramatic death in Planet of Fire,
in which,
I honestly
let us not
think,
forget, during that death, the Master says to the Doctor, "Won't you even show mercy to your own ...
right.
So
Which,
you think maybe that would be mentioned in his next appearance? No.
yeah, clarify that, and also how did he come back? Now, granted, I'm going to just come out. I'm not saying don't bring the Master back, right? Like I'm saying, like, of course he's going to come back. He's always going to come back. We know this. It's part of the show. It's fine, but have some more respect for the fans and the people who are paying attention. And
Yeah.
I think the old era, and I think this counts as part of the old era now, but I think it's wrongly remembered by casual fans. Like, oh, they brought him back, and he died at the end of every episode, and they just brought him back anyway.
Yeah.
No, incorrect. That actually is not right. He escapes like at the end of every Pertwee episode, or is captured. He never actually dies in that era, and he actually never actually dies in the Davison era, like and the Baker era. It's always clear he escapes, or there's some, like we just talked about the end of the Keeper of Traken. Even things like Time Flight or Castrovalva, you never actually see the character die. There's never like an explicit like this guy got shot and died. was burnt to a crisp and died, as in like that doesn't happen except in Planet of Fire. They
Yeah.
explicitly show him dying.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I know I am sounding like
No, I
Kathy
love
Bates
it.
in Misery here.
Bring
I
it.
know, I'm sorry, but I mean, this is the legit point of view offense. You ended with him getting burnt to a crisp. Start there, and you don't have to show exactly what happened, but you at least have to address it. You have to have some line somewhere that respects the fans and the continuity, because otherwise nothing means anything. And why am I even watching this thing week after week? Okay,
And
I
this
think
is why
I'm getting a little too. I've got to slow down. I've got
take
back
a
to you,
breath.
Chris.
Take a breath. And this
Oh.
is why Pip and Jane Baker are both in Pete's basement, chained to beds, with typewriters in front of them, until they write that one line. They've been tasked with doing a rewrite of the Mark of Rani, Mark of the Rani, that has us. Because you know what? I think you're right, because it does. This is the one instance in which. It doesn't make any sense for the Master coming back in the classic series, and that gave both RTD and Moffat license to play fast and loose with the Master dying at the end of Last of the Time Lords,
Right.
then coming
Well,
back.
they actually, but they also in the Last of the Time Lords, he gives the whoever picked up the baton, and it turned out to be him, the device. It's like, here's the ring and the glaff, and it's like you can bring it back whenever you want.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, great, and they do. I mean, he does. So I mean, like that's RTD, right? Like there's that respect, and I'm sorry, I don't think Chibnall, and to a lesser extent Moffat, have that same respect. I mean, Chibnall, again, nothing against. Like, I think Sacha Dhawan is great. I think they've done some interesting things with the Master, even though it might not be the direction I would go in the Whittaker era. But it is like they completely ignored everything they were doing with Missy.
Yeah.
And that we're not talking about those episodes right now, but it is the same thing. There was this whole arc with Missy, lots of questions unanswered. They bring back the Master and to proceed to answer exactly 0 of those questions.
Yes.
And fine, fair enough. But you're losing something there if you're not addressing it. And yeah, it's fine if Big Finish or the novels ended up doing it, but I want to see it in the show. The show is the thing that is the touch point for everyone, and to see it addressed there would just legitimize everything and stop this sort of the fuzziness of it, if you know what I mean, that sort of emerges when you have these gaps. And as things get more fuzzy, they just become more meaningless. And
Yeah.
I want more meaning, not less.
We do want this as Doctor Who fans, right? We do think that the show deserves it, and it can be weird and wild and wacky. It's a show about an Edwardian dressing professor type traveling in a box through time and space. It's going to get wacky, but yeah, make it a bit more consistent.
Yeah.
And also,
So
yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, just don't make stories boring like this one.
Totally. Well, it's also like it's not just like respecting the fans too. Even
Yeah.
within this story, it's a missed opportunity, because can you think of a more boring Master reveal than the one in this story,
Yeah, it's
where
terrible.
he literally just walks into a scene?
Yeah.
Like that's it. It's like, here's the Master. There's no unmasking. There's no dramatic thing that happens.
Doesn't he start
And
off
suddenly
in a
he
coat
emerges
or
from the
something? And
shadows.
he's sort of in disguise.
All I remember is him suddenly just kind of he's outside too. Like, they did a lot of location filming for this, which isn't
Yeah.
a bad thing. I think it was fine, but it was like the Master reveal isn't even a reveal. It's just kind of like character walks on screen, and if you unfamiliar with the Master, you'd probably be like, huh, okay, well, whatever. Like, you get no sense of moments of gravitas. I think it's disrespectful to the character, and just like I say, a missed opportunity to do something right. And it sort of makes you question, why is the Master even in this story?
Mm.
Like,
Yeah, it really would have been better without him. You'd have more space to expound on other characters. Like, we didn't even mention, we haven't mentioned Lord Ravensworth yet. You mentioned Luke once, but neither of them were really necessary in the plot summary. Also, not really necessary is any explanation of what the hell it is the Rani's actually doing here, and why is she doing it,
yeah.
and how is she doing it.
This is the thing that this plot itself is kind of like the motivation of the villains is kind of weak, at least
Mm,
for the Rani. And I feel like the Bakers didn't challenge themselves enough if they ever considered doing just a Ronnie episode, because she's just there to get brain fluid for the planet she apparently rules on the other side of the universe, because her experiments there have ruined the brains of those people and they can't
mm,
sleep. So she needs it here. So the thing is, once the doctor arrives, the Ronnie, being this cold, calculating person, I think would immediately sort of calculate the ROI on what she's doing doesn't match. I should. She's not going to be bothered fighting the doctor, in other
yeah,
words, and spending resources. She just leaves. Like she has no
yeah.
reason to stay.
Literally,
Um,
just go around the other side of the world. Just
yeah.
set up a bathhouse anywhere.
Well, plus or minus a few hundred years, and just kind of like, harvest a few more people. It could be like, the homeless area of Johannesburg, or,
By the way,
the
this
slums of Tokyo, like wherever you want to do it.
we should talk briefly about the bathhouse thing, because this is one of the weirdest thing about this episode, and perhaps why the Rani has become a gay icon, because she does lure young men to a bathhouse where
Oh,
they
yes.
get restrained, and she removes their ability to sleep. Mid-80s, what could
Hmm.
do that? Um, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's kind of an interesting thing.
She's also got she can wear leather like nobody
Oh
else.
my God,
Like
Kate
no.
O'Mara was a vegetarian, famously, but she, I hope that's pleather, Kate, because you're gonna get paint thrown on you if you exit
Yeah,
a
but
restaurant in that costume.
I mean, she looks fabulous. I got to say, like her costume, it's probably like your eyes are on Kate O'Mara throughout this thing,
Oh yeah,
even when she's a crone, and you're kind of wondering what's up with her. It's too bad. Again, like I think her story is less interesting. Her motivation is less interesting, and then she just kind of gets strung along by the master,
mm,
and then sort of persuaded by him to sort of do her thing. So ultimately, she's like, okay, I kind of like the idea of you ruling the earth, and I'll just get as much brain fluid as I want. I can set up a whole freaking,
yeah,
clinic on
yeah,
in multiple places if you just
exactly.
rule this place.
Yeah, I'll be your
Uh,
Department of Health.
yeah, and so she's kind of I like it when the two of them are together. There's a lot of good moments, right? Because she
Yeah,
kind of when she's delighting in changing the doctor's lifestyle with the tree mines. That's just kind of a good sort of cackling moment.
yeah. So
Uh,
let's talk about the tree mines.
why not?
Oh my God, the tree mines in the Mark of the Rani are like the big rat in the Talons of Wenchang. Uh,
Mm,
and it sort of you can perhaps see the sort of the interesting, almost Moffat-y style idea here.
mm.
It's the idea that, you turn animal matter into vegetable matter, and what's the difference? Like, that's a nice sort of psychotic thing for the Rani to do
Yeah,
in
I didn't
theory,
mind it. Yeah.
but it's everything else about the mines. From
Yeah.
the way that she's not really burying them, she's just sort of a few leaves being pushed over, and we can see in
You can
many
see
many
him.
shots, you can see them. They're fully exposed. You would have
Yeah.
to not be, and Luke gets blown up. Perry's in danger of being blown. The idea is that they're going to unwittingly step on these things. Well, they're supposed to be searching for Valerian for
Hmm.
their sleep potion, right?
Right.
So they are looking down at the ground, so they're clearly going to see these things sticking out the leaves. So
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's kind of like the director just thought we forgot.
yeah,
She had to constantly remind us. Oh, there's mines around, and she's about to step on one. Oh, there's one right there. It's like, okay, we get it.
yeah,
It's a minefield. And you could have done that through music, and they sort of tried here and there, but it was like, eh. But yeah, I
yes.
like the idea of them. Like you said, it's interesting to think about Pip and Jane Baker, who also wrote. Did they write Terror of the Vervoids? I can't remember.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't know.
so,
What have we encountered
well,
of theirs
I,
before
I,
in our journey?
but I would say like it's just an interesting thing that there's a sort of a plant obsession
Yeah.
here in the Colin Baker era, because the Vervoids end up being sort of plant like creatures that want to kill animal kind, right? And so there's
Hmm.
there's clearly kind of like a little bit of I don't know, vegetarianism Sorry, vegetarianism is also referenced in the Two Doctors because
Yeah.
of shock eye and all this stuff. So I think it's kind of a recurring theme here in the Colin Baker era of this strange respect and perhaps fear of plants.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that we come here so soon after the Clause of Access, which had spaghetti plant monsters, spaghetti
Hmm.
monsters that were very very vegetable like, and Access itself was very much like that, right?
They did. Sorry, I just Pip and Jane Baker. They did write Terror of the Vervoids, so
Mm.
the plant obsession could be theirs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that makes sense. But also there's so much about this where you're just like Pip and Jane Baker. You're just as we would say here in the UK, you're having a laugh. Are you having a laugh? You just they're playing fast and loose with everything. The
Right.
sort of and the whole backstory of the Rani being exiled from Gallifrey because giant mice ate the president's cat.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, and took a
do,
chunk out of him,
do you
apparently.
think? Do they think they're Douglas Adams or something? Is that what they think they're doing here? Do we think they think they're funny?
Yeah, and what does exile mean? I mean, she has a
Mm,
TARDIS,
mm,
so they gave her a TARDIS, or she stole one, so she's not an exile. Because when they exiled the Doctor, they did some things, right? Like, yeah, his TARDIS was there, but they made sure he couldn't use it.
yeah,
And they seemed to pay attention to what he was doing, and here it just seems like they were like, all right, now she's the universe's problem, which sounds like a bad way to deal with that, like,
well, there is. I mean, there's the fact that her name means queen, right?
right.
From Indian, which is a bit weird for the show to go from Doctor, Master. The only rogue Time Lords we've seen so far. Doctor, Master, Rani. One of these things is not like the other.
Well,
Great that we are maybe giving more exposure to the Indian language. Maybe it's cultural appropriation. I don't know. You decide. Um, but it does certainly give her an aristocratic bearing. So I like the idea that she is somehow a Time Lord aristocrat and
mhm.
gets a planet to rule in exile, and that sort of kind of doubles down on the kind of the callousness of the Time Lords, right? The Time Lords are assholes, and they're aristocratic assholes, and we know there's some deadly assassin, etc., etc. So yeah,
Yeah,
this could enhance the sort of the sense of corruption of Gallifreyan society
yeah,
if
I would,
they
yeah.
cared, if
Yeah,
they threw in a few
I would
lines.
I would love to see like a little more in the backstory of the Rani
Mm,
here, because to your point, I think it alludes to something. It doesn't fit, and I think you could create an interesting political yarn
mm,
about the Rani, possibly like her family or whatever owed favors from the High Council, and so she gets like the Rolls Royce of exiles,
yeah,
of exile sentences, and gets her own planet, access to a TARDIS, just kind of try not to make too many waves in the web of time,
yeah,
and you'll be fine. Just stay off Gallifrey. That's interesting. Whereas someone who's like a doctor who is more of a commoner, came from a barn or whatever in the
hmm
rural
hmm
Gallifrey, gets smacked around a little more. I like that.
yeah. And you know what? That should make him a bit more, perhaps a bit more sensitive towards the Luddites
Right.
here. The Luddites do not come out of this looking good. I mean, yeah, you smash a few wool looms and look what happens. Everyone, is still attacking you on the BBC 200 years later. Um, no, they, obviously the Luddites is probably one of the first things we should discuss here,
Yeah.
right? In
Is it
terms of
time? Is it time for History Corner? I think it
oh,
is.
oh, there are going to be 4 history corners. I think
All
it's
right,
only
started.
appropriate.
Here's the Luddite one. I hear there were some issues with the accuracy of
Yes,
some
yes.
of this.
Yeah, so the idea is, I mean, it's kind of sort of so the show is kind of insulting to working class Britain in a lot of ways. Let's not just talk about that accent, the accents of all of the
Mm.
actors in the southeast who are pretending to be Geordies. Now, this is actually Chris's language corner because I'm going to have to educate you on what a Geordie is. A Geordie is someone from the northeast of England, usually around Newcastle. There are two main interpretations for why they're called Geordies. One is the idea that they called themselves George's men when Bonnie Prince Charlie was marching south and asked Newcastle if they would join the rebellion
Mhm.
against King George II, and they said no, we're George's men. That's the leading theory. Another theory is George Stephenson
Ah,
may have actually
okay.
given the name to the Geordies. Um, but yeah, you
Let's
certainly
go with
wouldn't
that one.
guess that there are Geordies in this because the accents are hideous. But yeah, secondly, the notion that being deprived of sleep turns you into a
Right.
Luddite.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
it's a stretch, but I didn't hate it in that the it cheapens actual Luddites, right? Because
mm,
these people are just super violent, and then they're essentially steered a bit by the master, like, oh, go wreck some equipment because
mm,
that's what you should be mad about. And it's
yeah.
like, oh, okay, let's do that. So it's kind of like, there's no real like plan here like,
they they
in the
really are
historical sense.
just oafs, aren't they? And the
Right.
Doctor's basically on the side of machinery and yay, taking away jobs, which and this is
Well, maybe he sees the big picture.
1985, right? This is 1985. This is right after the miners' strike in the UK, the major
Oh,
miners'
okay.
strike.
Yeah.
So the question of machines taking away jobs was very much on everyone's minds.
Yeah.
It was happening in our profession in journalism in Wapping, where Rupert Murdoch had defied the print unions by
Well,
allowing journalists to use computers. Imagine that, Pete.
right. Oh my God. Such an evil development. But
Yeah,
no, and we're actually probably on the verge of another big
yeah.
change where AIs start writing stories for us. It's already started happening
Oh
somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
There'll be riots then, I'm sure. But yes, actually, the show
Well mannered riots.
the show
Riots on
does
Twitter.
get one thing right about Luddites. Amazingly,
Okay.
accidentally, Pepper Jane Baker actually gets some things right, and one of them is that Luddites did not operate in the north of England. It was much more of a
Oh.
southern
Okay.
phenomenon. So I think there is one line that Colin Baker throws in there, like the Luddites weren't supposed to be this far north, or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, so good for him. But yeah, so
Well,
okay, should we get the other history corners out of the
let's
way?
do it because let's a little more background on the history of this. So
Yeah,
we mentioned there's a ton of location shooting for
yeah,
this episode, and it's because there was basically a free film crew that the
mm,
BBC had licensed with nothing to do. They were
mm,
already paid for, and they kind of went around and said, "Hey, we got a film crew. It's sort of at this location or around this location. Does anyone want it?" And John Nathan Turner was like, "Yeah, man, I'll do that." And so he did that, and so there was like a ton more location shooting here, and I think there was
mm.
stuff at Iron Bridge. Is that what it's called? And there's a museum
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
and
It's in
yeah.
Shropshire, which is again is kind of insulting because there's a famous museum up here that would have been perfect. It's called Beamish Open Air Museum, and it replicates a town in 1910, but there are definitely Victorian elements in it as well, and
Right.
it would totally suit, and it's much larger than the area they filmed in. Looks much more like an actual town, and it would have been a much better place to film the Mark of the Rani. And you know what? You could also have had some extras who actually spoke Geordie.
Ah,
Aye,
all right.
I can do me best Geordie accent if you like. It's not great, but I did grow up. See, I'm kind of failing now. I'm having the same
Luke,
problem.
is that you?
Luke,
Oh,
Luke,
poor
there's
Luke.
so many Luke, I am your father kind of moments here. They talk about Luke, and yeah, he's definitely a bit of a hunk, isn't he? He's the hunk of the
Very
episode.
hunky, yeah.
Yeah, you would
Mhm.
think that he and Perry would have had more chemistry.
Yeah, he gets
Um,
a little fondly with Perry when he's a
w-
tree.
Once he's a tree, he's
We didn't talk about that. We talked about the mines, but when he turns into a tree, I got to say, like, they had me up until that. Like I'm willing to go with the tree. Oh, the sun and all that's fine. But when the branch actually moves and it's clearly like this rubber thing, it's just like so many things. Like, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. Like that. No, 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 no.
and
Yeah.
then the fact that the branch is groping Perry. Uh, So it just we go
Yeah,
from
is it saving her, or are there other motivations here? I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was just a coincidence that it kept her from going in the mine.
And even look, I would have applauded them if they'd had any sense of romance prior to that between
Hmm.
Perry and Luke, which could have been built in. And I know it was 1985, and you didn't necessarily go too romantic in Doctor Who back then. You could have had a little bit, a line, a look, maybe give Nicola Bryant someone to act against who isn't Colin Baker.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't it a Viking king from the future in some distant galaxy?
Brian, blessed.
She can pick him.
Mm.
But yeah, there was tons of location shooting. So generally, though, like putting aside they could have done a better location and probably done better with the accents, I thought the episode itself looked great. I mean, it was convincing, right? Like even when I was sitting down with Jack with this, like right off the bat, he was like, "When is this?" I'm guessing 1800s, and dead on. In fact, there's some debate about exactly what year this is supposed to be set in.
Yeah, that's
They
the
never
thing.
they never say on screen, and yeah, there's no year that even
That
works.
actually
There's a lot
fits.
of contradictions.
Yeah. I think one of the inventors they mentioned was in jail at a certain point.
Right.
I've already mentioned Humphrey Davy couldn't possibly have been there because of the dispute over the mining lamps, which persisted till the day they died.
There's also I guess Lord Ravensworth was referred to as Lord Ravensworth historically, even
There was a
though
Baron
he wasn't
Ravensworth.
always a lord. So
Yeah.
that got confusing about when. Not necessarily just for us, but for Pip and Jane Baker when they were trying to sort of figure out what year, and luckily they never said. So it's a little bit almost like the unit problem. Like we don't actually say what year because there is no good year. So it's anywhere from I think the 1810s to like the 1840s.
Yeah, and the and probably on the earlier side of that, I think is the only one that makes sense with all the inventors.
It's like the consensus, yeah.
But there's also it's hard to make it before 1815, Battle of Waterloo, because as many historians and Doctor Who fans have pointed out when discussing the Mark of the Rani, the atmosphere in Britain prior to Napoleon being fully properly exiled was one of intense paranoia, in which a man in a multicolored frock coat would certainly have been arrested as a French spy, probably strung up, before he'd gotten two steps. Never mind, running into faux Luddites who snap bath towels at each other at one point. It's another really weird thing they do.
Yeah, it was very
What was
weird.
that about?
Well, here's my guess. I mean, I thought there was a continuity error there because the doctor later says like those men were clean, right? That's how he knew they came from the bathhouse. But the Rani gassed them before they had a bath.
Yeah.
Right? So do they have a bath after
Yeah.
they're like, get the brain fluid extracted? And I guess it's a very violent bath with a lot of towel snapping. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's the only thing I could kind of figure out on like why that was going on. But I guess they're trying to show why, these guys are kind of losing it.
By the way, while we're talking about the Rani's bathhouse, the fact that she has a Turner screen, as in the famous artist.
Oh, okay.
Who the doctor says too passionate for the Rani's tastes. So the doctor's an art critic. Okay, the Rani's allowed to like what she likes. Come on. But then this is a Turner appears to be of Krakatoa or something. Like there's a volcano in the background, and that's where mustard gas comes out.
Yeah.
Again, there was no need to mention this in the summary. But let's just let's have Chris's chemical corner, and let's say, kids, if you're tempted to release mustard gas on your enemies, please don't, because you cannot just get out of it. Things will go badly, and if you're tempted to replicate this episode, things will go badly. The Doctor and Perry would not be saved by just putting on a gas mask.
Oh, really?
It burns your skin. It's a
Mm.
nerve agent. It's nasty, nasty stuff. And if they'd opened the windows, as they do to disperse the gas, first of all, it wouldn't disperse that quickly. Secondly, it would cause the same problem, burning skin, and destroy the
Killed the
breathing.
whole village.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a reason this was a weapon of war.
Yeah.
You know, like it actually does work outside. You know, it's not like
Yeah.
COVID. You know, where it's all right now. I'm fine from outside.
I mean, it's
You
kind
know,
of kind of appropriate to the version of the Rani who just shoots two of her servants
right?
because they're kind
Yeah,
of getting in the way. But not really appropriate to the sort of the image of the Rani as a cool, calculating villain.
right. Agreed. So I think the research on the mustard gas not so good. I guess you could argue it was maybe sort of a mild version of it, but I
Mm.
was always like, why doesn't Perry just run out the door like the
Mm.
second that happens, and the doctor too, because they never
Yeah.
actually lock the door, and they're just kind of there, and arguably like she's there to she doesn't want to abandon the doctor, but like the doctor could go like you have two legs, dude, like just run. What are you doing?
Yeah, people just don't think of this. And while we're talking about the Doctor and Perry, I mean, it really has to be said their chemistry was not great in the Mysterious Planet, or in
Um,
Attack of the Cybermen.
the doctor and Perry.
Yeah, like their
I thought
chemistry.
Mysterious Planet was okay.
It was okay,
Yeah,
but
it definitely grown.
compared to this, I mean, they are like the Doctor and Rose in those other stories. Like here,
Yeah,
you're just like, why the hell are you two traveling together?
he snaps at her a lot, and honestly, like this is another thing. Jack's very honest about things. He's like
Mm.
Perry's useless. Like he
Mm.
said at least once or twice, where she is trying to wheel the doctor. Like she finds the doctor captured right by the
Hmm.
Rani in the bathhouse, and he's tied down. And the doctor insists, like, get him out of here. This like the other person.
Mm.
Doctor obviously, being very noble, wants to save the innocent life, and she wheels him out halfway. But the master and the Rani come in. They haven't seen Perry yet, and she just kind of stands there, like,
Mm.
oh. No, you don't want to like duck down. You don't want to hide. You don't want to like do something. It's just like, oh, okay. And suddenly, she's captured too. Though nice little bit where the master wants to take revenge on her for Planet of Fire.
Yeah.
Funny that they decided to reference it there
Yeah.
and not in
Finally.
actually how he got out. But anyway, we've already talked about that.
Yeah, but she
And then
also doesn't she also she lets go of the Doctor's
right,
uh gurney, right? Which is sort of
yeah.
that's your episode 1 cliffhanger.
Well,
Yeah.
and she gets overpowered by them at the end when she's trying to hold them hostage with the tissue compression eliminator.
Mm.
And it's a wonder they don't kill her right then and there.
Yeah,
But
the Ronnie
um,
fools her,
yeah, and
pulls one
but
over
the
with the
only
old
thing
pill
she does,
trick.
actively is try to get the sedative, the herbs
Mm.
for the sedative. But even that ends up being not helpful. Like who knows if it's going to work on people without this chemical, and it's just becomes moot because they get the chemical back.
Yeah,
So she doesn't do anything. She doesn't do anything in this episode. She kind of
yeah,
wanders around, tries to help the doctor. The doctor's already doesn't need the help
yeah.
or whatever,
And
and
she lets go
it's
of
just
his
too bad.
trolley, and he
Yeah.
careens down a hill, and that is such a laughable cliffhanger, by the way. You sort of see him
Oh
heading
yeah.
towards the mine shaft, but it's just the comedy of it. Like this is Buster Keaton stuff, right?
Mhm.
There was a British comedy around this time called Last of the Summer Wine, which had a very very similar scene in it of one of the lead actors careening downhill while an audience screams with laughter. It's repeated on British television ad nauseam, that episode.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't. It's just like, why would you put it in a dramatic context? Why would you even think to put that in Doctor Who and not have people laugh at it, not even have people point and laugh? This might be a good segue into my attack on BritBox, because we have said to
Launch our
BritBox that
attack.
you do need to sponsor us, BritBox. Otherwise, we
You should
might
stop
say,
saying their name because they basically already do.
oh,
The
crap.
service that may not be
Oh,
named.
yeah.
Uh,
So I can't access my BritBox account in the UK. I pay a monthly fee to BritBox, like any decent Doctor Who fan has to, if they want to watch the classic show.
Don't be
And
indecent, everybody.
yes, but here in the UK, my account doesn't work. I would have had to have signed up for an extra account. And you and I talked about this
Right.
during the last couple of weeks, Pete. And
Well, I got
I-
3 words for you.
VPN.
VPN. Yeah. So you stole
I-
my line, bro. What are you, John Pertwee? Talk about how your teeth and curls are who you became.
Oh dear. Sorry about that. No, I decided that it was just like it was not worth it for the Mark of the Rani.
Right.
I could also sign up like a free week, so even a free subscription, even a free week of British BritBox could probably have swung that. But for the Mark of the Rani, no. So how I watch this, I'm just going to keep this real. I'm going to keep it 100. How I watched this was on Dailymotion.
Oh, wow.
You can often find bootleg Doctor Who episodes on Dailymotion. You can also find what I found for the first episode, which was the GOWI edit, which
Okay.
stands for Get On With It. It's an edit that basically cuts 5 minutes out of Doctor Who episodes, and in this
Wow, only
case,
5?
only 5. Only cut 5 out of the first episode of Mark of the Rani. It was amazing. There's so much more potential. Obviously I haven't missed anything by watching that version. But also they put it in like a sepia tone black and white. I don't know if that was to evade the BBC cops or the BritBox cops or whatever. But it
sounds
actually
very apt.
it was. That's exactly my thought. It was so apt, especially for that cliffhanger, because it made it look like something from the 1910s, like a silent movie. Those are the vibes I got, and even then, thought it was like, well, is this Buster Keaton? Is this Charlie Chaplin?
You get the piano,
Exactly.
and then it would like cut to the caption.
Yeah, and the
Run,
piano
Perry!
goes, the minor chord at the bottom of the piano as the Doctor careens down the hill. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the level that we're playing at here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's utterly ridiculous.
You think about the things they could have chosen, right? Like someone maybe getting, Perry getting her brain fluid extracted, which never really happens or anything, or just actual peril you could have put in there, or something to do with Luke, because there's a couple times he nearly gets violent. All of that, I think that the Luke stuff doesn't actually happen to episode 2, but there were other things, and they went for this. With anything to do with the Luddites, unfortunately, I think just feels a little cartoony, because we know they're not the bad guys. We also know they're not bad guys. I mean, they're just kind of zombies, They're just kind of like kicking things over, and they're not even that scary zombies, right? They're not even murderers or anything.
They're the Keystone Luddites again, appropriately enough for the black and white version.
Yeah, it's just silliness. So I will say, like, this is why I think episode 2 is very much the superior episode, because you get to see the Rani in kind of her glory, and there's just sort of more, the mines are happening. There's more going on. You actually see the Rani's TARDIS, which is cool.
You actually meet George Stevenson in episode 2.
And you finally meet George Stevenson and Luke, so all the characters are on full display. Like episode 2 is definitely. I hope there wasn't too much time cut out of that one.
Yeah.
In your get on with it.
There's actually the full episode 2 up there on Dailymotion. Oops, sorry, whoever posted that. You're probably going to have the BritBox cops on you. But yeah, let that be a warning to you, BritBox. People are going to find a way around your weird transatlantic rules.
Yeah. How did you like the Ronnie's TARDIS, the inside?
The inside was very cool. I liked it, and I would have liked the opportunity to enjoy it a little bit more. But for all those weird embryos around the side, which I guess were Chekhov's embryo, Chekhov's dinosaur embryo.
It's another Chekhov's gun thing, which I think they thought they shot it, basically pulled it off at the end, but they don't really, because you never actually see a dinosaur stand up, right? Like, I mean, you never like. Here's the thing. I love the idea. I love some of the random stuff around the Rani, where she's like, "Oh, if you're a time traveler, why wouldn't you just have these super predators ready to deploy wherever you want them? Because it's like that'd be a handy thing to have."
Yeah.
That's cool. It's kind of nuts. She just kind of has them in these open air containers in her console room, but whatever. That's cool.
They should have had post-regeneration Peter Capaldi do that. Because it comes out of the mouth of a dinosaur. You just have like a whole episode, just deep breath. He's just feeding dinosaur embryos in the control room. It's a nice callback.
So that's fine. Again, like I think her TARDIS looks awesome. I'm really sad we never really see it again. That's sad anyway. But the T-Rex thing, when they start to hatch at the end, there's it's just all implied. They don't even try to do a real special effect of a dinosaur sort of, standing up and really
Mm.
threatening them. It's just this bigger doll they get that sort of grows real quick, but it never moves, it never does anything, and that is definitely an effect that of all the effects that are dated, like this is probably the biggest one because post Jurassic World, Jurassic Park, you're just kind of like, I know this is a completely different time, a completely different
Mm.
budget, but at least in Invasion of the Dinosaurs they tried, right? They actually had, I think probably some stop motion stuff or whatever, but here they're just kind of like throw a doll on the floor and think, okay, that's threatening, I guess. It's like, oh, what?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so yeah, I don't want to harp on Michael the Rani for too long. It is kind of kind of famously a bit of a mess, um, and
Well, like I say, I think there's good stuff here in the Master and the Rani. Like
yeah,
both of them together are produce some of the best lines. And I will say, beyond even just this story, the Rani making fun of the Master's obsession with the Doctor is one of the best
mm,
lines in the show itself, right? Like
hmm,
she's basically just like, I forget what she says. Oh, like it's not even really like the line itself isn't particularly clever, but he's like, I forget what he says, but you know what I'm all about. She says, "Oh yeah, you destroy the Doctor." She almost does air quotes, right? Like, yeah, I get it. That's your
yeah.
thing.
She doesn't take any of the master's shit, which is
Yeah,
fantastic. Oh, and which is what immediately reduces him to a bit player because he's got no snappy comeback.
yeah. It's
He's
just kind of like you're
it,
obsessed with this dude, and you're lame, and all you have on me is that you stole my brain fluid.
yeah,
Like, otherwise, I really don't have any respect for you.
yeah,
Um,
totally,
so yeah, that
yeah,
all works, and Kate O'Mara's great. Every time, like the thing is, she is very good for someone who's playing a cold person.
mm,
Her performance has the right beats of emotion to it, like especially when she's frustrated at the Master and like he steals her like maggots that are
yeah,
brain controlling or whatever, and she's like, I was offering you just one, not the lot, and her delight about the mines we talked about earlier, and obviously all the stuff like when they're bickering at each other in the TARDIS when it's malfunctioning,
mm.
really, really good. She's like, you asinine cretin, what do you think I'm trying to do? Like,
Yes, I like that the Doctor has messed with her TARDIS, and I like that the the biggest, the most sci-fi thing they could imagine in the mid-80s was a remote control TARDIS. You finally cracked it. A remote control for a TARDIS? That's crazy.
yeah, and it's just so like mundane now.
Yeah.
Like the remote control of the TARDIS, it's like, oh, that's just kind of a given. Like,
we we talked about this, didn't we, with Genesis of the Daleks, the idea that voice control is seen as a huge technological step forward
yeah, yeah,
in that, and remote control is in this. Yeah,
yeah.
it's a bit bizarre.
Like snapping the fingers, that's the
Mm,
upgrade in
yeah.
that we were waiting for, and we got that. Although we talked about that at the time, and
Mm.
Forest
You
of the
know what?
Dead just sort
You
of
know what would
randomly
be
gets a feature gets added. But anyway,
what would have been great in here? A great way to not only save Mark of the Rani, but also save classic Doctor Who. I don't think it would have gone off the air. Is have Perry die in this episode when the Rani is leading
mm.
her out of the minefield, and somehow make the Rani the Doctor's new companion.
Oh wow, that would be
Yeah.
weird. The companion though, or
Would you
like
not
in the
watch
sort
the
of this,
hell out of that though?
I would watch it for sure, and I think her and Colin Baker,
Mm,
they do well together, and I would have loved to see more of that. Yeah, exactly. Like the Master's just there, right? Like they're getting in each other's space, and her and him and the Ronnie, and it's less of an episode for it. Like you just kind of want to see Colin Baker dealing with this person who's his equal, but not obsessed with him, in this
mm,
rivalry, and sort of has to do this um, different thing with her.
yeah.
But I guess you could sort of see that as like, remember the Capaldi Missy season where she's in the vault? Maybe it's something along
Mm,
the lines of that, as the Ronnie being like this person he needs to train. I don't know. But yeah, that sounds really intriguing to me.
yeah. Yeah. Yes. Right. I mean, way beyond the imagination of Pip and Jane Baker, apparently, or JNT, I guess, at this point, uh,
Yeah, I
to
mean,
set that
it
up.
would be
But
very bold. I don't know if you and killing
yeah,
Perry. I mean, they would. I don't. They arguably they do it. Okay, the following season, even though they kind of reverse it. But killing
they could be
companions.
like, she's not dead. She's actually a tree. It's fine.
You could reverse it. Maybe you could reverse it.
Yeah,
Could happen.
yeah. That could be like the whole subplot of the next season. Like, just have the Doctor forcing the Rani to search around the universe for some way to reverse this thing, turn
Mm,
Perry into a tree. But yeah, Colin Baker never looks more like a barrister, like the barrister that he trained to be, the lawyer that he trained to be, than he does in this episode.
mm,
Right? It's just he's so, and that's I think the reason why he and Perry don't work.
really?
Quite apart from the other reasons why they don't work, and the bad accent, but it's just like he's constantly demolishing Perry, and there's no Perry doesn't
Yeah.
have enough snappy cut. Like, he's a master of words and language, and he just sort of sounds slightly arrogant with it all. And Perry's just like, it's like,
Yeah.
kicking a lamb
Yeah.
or
Perry
something. It's just
doesn't
not.
have a lot of good lines in return.
Yeah.
I do like the
Which is
final
why you
line,
need
which
someone like
yeah,
Kate O'Mara. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, I like the final line as a line, because when they're like, "What do you
Hmm.
guys do in that box?" And she's like, "Argue mainly." It's funny. It's a laugh out loud line, and it's true. It's just yeah, you
It
feel
does. It
like
did. It did. It did make me realize that line that it is, from George Stevenson and Lord Ravensworth's perspective in that moment. Uh, it is a man and his bonny lass, as she's called at one point, is Bonnie getting into a box together. They don't know that it's larger on the inside.
yeah,
Just like, excuse me, sir, must you must you do that now, sir?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Oh,
young
that's so
lady's
funny.
not even married.
Yeah,
But
you
yeah,
definitely feel
they
like
they argue mostly.
the only reason Perry is with him is because she's worried about him, to some extent,
Mm.
right? It's like he's going to get into trouble, and
Yeah, and
his
and she's
irascible
looking for,
attitude. Yeah,
yeah, she's really looking for a cheap ride to Kew Gardens, apparently, at the start of this episode.
yeah,
Um,
kind of
yeah,
weird, and
yeah.
gets her in that outfit, which is apparently. I mean, I will say it is one of the few times Perry's sort of covered up in the in her first season. Um, but it's just so bad. And honestly, I was listening to the commentary. Nicola Bryant didn't like the outfit either. She just thought it was really unflattering and just looked ridiculous.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
it did.
it just it's almost not even like a period thing. I mean, I guess it is, but it's not. She just looks really out of place there. Like, okay, like what?
Yeah,
Maybe that's maybe it's more 18th century. I don't know. But it does not work.
and how come nobody mentions her American accent? Right?
Right.
I mean,
Like,
it's
I guess they could have
they would
like,
know what an American sounds like, maybe.
yeah, someone could have at least mentioned it, right? And just like,
Mm.
when did you come over on what boat did you come in on? Why are you here? Etc.
Yep,
Uh, hanging with the
yep,
doctor, obviously.
exactly. Yeah. So okay, we have a number of things that we need to sort out about this
Hmm.
episode that we always sort out about Doctor Who stories. And the question which we've sort of answered up until now, which is, why did the randomizer take us here?
Yeah. Well, my theory on this is it gives us a little bit of, we can reevaluate Colin Baker's first season, like the same way we did with Attack of the Cybermen, which I came away liking a little more. And in this case, I probably like it a little less. I do remember really liking this episode, and I actually thought it was probably my favorite of Colin Baker's first season because it
Hmm.
had so many interesting aspects to a middle schooler, which is what I was at the time, of sort of history and the mind control, and there were just a lot of elements that I thought were interesting. Plus another Time Lord, which you don't see every day in Doctor Who.
Hmm.
but now seeing it again and sort of seeing the mess it is, and again, the Ronnie and the Master really just getting in each other's space. It's not something that is greater than the sum of its parts. It's probably less.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think we've kind of come here straight from the Romans because it is, as you mentioned before, kind of close to being a pure historical
mm.
in many ways. Although just get so many things wrong, and I'll give you the final portion of Chris's History Corner, which is the notion is at the end that Stevenson is about to invent the rocket. Right, he's got the famous first locomotive there, which is actually called the locomotive, not the rocket. But never mind that. It was actually built by his son,
Okay.
Robert Stevenson, who isn't even mentioned here. And yeah, George Stevenson in general gets short shrift in this episode. And, for the Doctor saying, "Would you like to meet a genius?" We're sort of set up to believe that we're really going to meet Stevenson and meet him as a memorable character.
Yeah,
You
what
really
does he even
don't. You don't
do
know
other than
that much about him.
he sort of saves the Doctor at the beginning of episode 2, and does he do anything else that matters to the story?
Yeah, not really. Not really. He's just sort of fiddling with a gasket at the end. And the Doctor's like, "Oh, you're gonna figure that out soon enough." But yeah, Stevenson had a very interesting hard scrabble life. Like he was rags to riches tale. He was in demand. Railways around the world. He invented the gauge that we still use for railways today. He deserves better than this, and he could
Yeah.
have been given. And there are just so many more interesting facets of his tale that could have been told here by Doctor Who, and would have been like you could imagine this almost as a Chris Chibnall episode, right? Where
Right. Yeah.
we get a bit sort of like more didactically historical. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
I kind of get
um,
similar vibes, I guess, from like Demons of the Punjab and a
yeah,
couple other ones where even the haunting of Villa Diodati, that
yeah,
sort of intersection with something real, and
yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So that. Yeah, kids could have learned a little bit about a great northern hero who is much revered in this part of the world.
yeah,
So it's a shame that they weren't. Anyway, but the randomizer, I think that's the connection to the Romans. And then
yeah.
we, the
There's
randomizer does also love, as we know, to take me to episodes where there's TARDIS action mid-story, and here the TARDIS gets thrown down a mine shaft
right.
and is retrieved without even a speck of coal dust on it for some reason. Uh,
Yeah, I
and
guess they
also
hosed
there's
it
the
down,
Ronnie's
right?
TARDIS. So it's sort of yeah. And the Ronnie's TARDIS. So there's a continuous theme here of like the randomizer is generous about its showing me bits of the TARDIS. Mid story, and the Master does an excellent sketch of the police box, don't you think?
Yeah, it's pretty like a photocopy. It was like, oh man, get that
Yeah.
in one of those Andrew Skilleter art collections. That definitely should be preserved. I
you
wonder if
really
they did anything with it. Wonder if that was ever
you,
auctioned
you
off or something.
really there would have been a great place for a flashback of like the Master in the TARDIS in his TARDIS at night, just sitting there drawing endless sketches of the Doctor's TARDIS, like with hearts around it.
Well, he's got to put it up on his dartboard, like
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a requisite thing for all Doctor Who villains. You have some memorabilia of the TARDIS available to destroy or test something on, because like the Daleks and Death to the Daleks apparently have a model TARDIS in every one of
Yeah.
their ships to test weaponry on, because that's just what you do. Got to encourage hatred of the Doctor.
Yes. All right. So the
Anyway,
next question
yeah.
is,
What if the evil
what if
plot
the
had
evil plot had
succeeded?
succeeded?
I hope we're in sync when I put that together. Um, so yeah, I mean it's pretty straightforward, I think. So I think it's basically the Master and the Rani. That if once you sort of probe it, the evil plot is that he uses the Earth as a platform for conquest. I think those are some words to that effect that he uses. And
Mm.
he says, this is in your interest, Ronnie, because now you can just set up shop here wherever you want and you never have to worry about sneaking around. And so, only thing in their way, of course, is the Doctor. So they have to kill the doctor. And here's where I think they should have, and where I think it's another plot hole that just doesn't ring true. And actually didn't even ring true when I saw it the first time, I think, where the doctor has the tissue compression eliminator and he's knocked it out of the master's hands and he's pointing it at them. And he's like, do what I want, do what I say, or I'm going to use it. No, you're not. Doesn't the master at least know him well enough that he's not going to do that? Like, and I don't know why they don't just walk away or just grab it from him or whatever, because it's like you're not going to do that. You're not a murderer.
Yeah.
Even though you could argue back and forth about the time war or whatever, but it is one of those things that just never rang true to me. Like, why don't they just say, "Oh, come on"? No, because the master has done this, like in the Time Monster, like this is exactly the same thing where he was like, "I'm going to ram my TARDIS into yours and kill us all," and the master's like, "You know what? Go ahead, do it."
Yeah.
Like
Make my day.
calls the
Make
bluff.
my day, punk.
I mean, it's a bluff. So if they simply call the bluff in that scene, he's powerless, he's dead, Perry's a tree, and they win. It's and it's never convincingly done so that it is comes out any other way, even though obviously it comes out another way.
Yeah. So I'm going to refer back to my previous what if the evil plot succeeded notion that the Doctor and the Rani end up as companions.
Yeah.
So
the evil plot being then
her destroying Perry with the tree mines, which
right.
I'm sure there's a certain segment of fandom that's kind of on her side for destroying Perry.
Nicola Bryant is lovely, and she's been great in the big finishes.
Yes, she has. Don't want to say a word against her. I still feel sorry for being saddled with that accent, but she'll always have the caves of Androzani. We can't take that one away from that. It's just
totally
every other one she kind of seems weirdly out of place.
I think she was okay in her debut. I have to I'll have to look back on Planet of Fire, which again will upload to YouTube in a few days after this goes up.
Good segue. And that another randomizer reason, right? It brought us back around to Planet of Fire.
Oh, that's true. Man, all these randomizer reasons. Yeah. Okay.
So next question: where is the Clara Splinter?
I was thinking about this, and there's probably plenty of plot holes, and that she could fill in. I thought about how she might be able to fill in the one about the bathhouse, but that's where I went with that. I didn't like going. So I'm going to say, again, another thing that never pays off is the meeting of all the geniuses. I got to think it must be the incompetent event organizer for Faraday and Davy and everyone else. She just can't get them to this village on time because she doesn't know what she's doing. Or as Clara, she's just intentionally making sure they never make it there, so their lives aren't in danger. Going with that.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's good enough. It's sort of hard to figure out how you could explain all the plot holes with just one Clara Splinter. But I don't know. I mean, there is that weird thing. Sort of the cliffhanger of episode 1 ends with a thing that it's kind of a cheat that we didn't see it at the end of episode 1, right? Where George Stevenson sort of raises the barrier in front of the mine at the last minute.
Oh, right. Yeah. And there was going to be a switch, but they didn't have the right track for it,
Yeah. So maybe she's there alerting George Stevenson to the need to do this. I don't know. Why did it just sort of happen to be there? I don't know. We found it out.
Maybe she sent word from where her bread making nook that the bread's ready or something. I don't know.
Or maybe she's in the Rani's youth, getting her interested in T-Rexes.
Oh, I like that. That maybe that's the thing where maybe she's a paleontologist somewhere where the Rani was last time and talked about some prehistoric find where there was just this great T-Rex nest in this section of Montana or wherever, Mongolia, and it's just incredible. And there's so many. It was like eggs all over the place.
Yeah, but
and
you know
so
the thing you got to do, you got to put Miracle Grow on the embryos as much as possible. Don't forget that.
and make sure
Don't
they're
forget
exposed to
that's
air.
carrying
Do it uncovered. Cook them
every
uncovered.
day. Yeah, exactly. In a very very light glass jar with an open top. Yeah,
100%. I like that. Yeah. All right, steering into the
Yeah.
T-Rexes. All right, ultimately, we got to give a final word on this episode, though. So, what do you think, Chris? Is this a Dalek? Is it an Ogron or a banger? Perhaps a Viscount banger. I don't think it's that, though.
I think it's a Lord Ravensworth banger. No. It's it is not.
competition
It
for
is
that
not.
title.
It is obviously an Ogron. It's a knuckle dragging Ogron. It's an Ogron that's sort of changing what it's about every 5 seconds and looking ridiculous with it, and also an Ogron that's turning itself into a tree with a gropey arm.
Yeah, I'd say it's an Ogron, but I think it's an Ogron with some interesting hobbies. You know, like it's basically an Ogron that, you know, if you stop and talk to it for a few minutes, it's like, oh, you know what? You actually have kind of a deep life and are really obsessed about a couple of things. Not that that's going to serve you that well in your chosen profession as a goon for the Daleks, but I'm glad you do. And I'll chat about them with you if I ever see you again, Ogron, but I'm not actually going out of my way to do that. That's my review. Short of Mark of the Rani.
All right. Well, it is time, I think.
It is time, isn't it?
It's time to do it, to leave Killingsworth in the indeterminate early 19th century and go where? How
somewhere
are we going to
else in
decide
time and
where we're
space.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to decide this by activating our randomizer. The TARDIS randomizer for Pull to Open. That's right. We are going to pick the next episode. The randomizer, as listeners know, consists of 2 components. The codex, which is essentially the navigation for the randomizer. It takes all the episodes of Doctor Who, numbers them in order, well, all the stories. And there are, in fact, 300 now that Legend of the Sea Devils has been broadcast and watched by Chris. We have 300 episodes, and we need to use the codex to activate the executor, which is
random.org.
Yeah, filled by random.org.
Yeah. Random.org, which uses atmospheric noise to determine a true random number. In our case, it's a random number between 1 and 300. So, Pete, we've retrieved our TARDIS from the bottom of the mine shaft. I think instead of arguing mostly in there, we should get in there and determine where we're going next. So do you want to give me a countdown?
Well, I'd give you a countdown, or should we give the randomizer a challenge? I mean, it's been a month.
Yeah.
Do you think I would have thought of a good challenge?
Because
the randomizer, because it always does not anything we expect, and certainly nothing we tell it to do. I'm just going to go and say, give us something like incredibly long.
Oh God.
Whether it's War Games, Dalek's Master Plan, that's what I'm aiming for, or maybe even one of those seven episoders. We'll see. But give us one of those and challenge us a bit on time.
I'm going to say, just take us to New Who, please.
Yeah, we've been in Classic for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we had Frontios, Claws of Axis, the Romans. Those are the most recent ones, and now we've done the Mark of the Rani. It's been a while. Let's get on back to the recent stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see if it listens to either of us. And Pete, give me a countdown, and I'll give you the number.
The countdown begins at 4, 3, 2, 1.
Excellent.
54.
54.
So it's not listened to
It
me.
ignored you. Oh, no, time locked. Terror of the Ottens. Boom. We bounce off Terror of the Ottens.
Time locked.
We are going somewhere else.
I thought that sounded familiar. Okay.
Yeah, let's try again. One more
Another
countdown. This time,
Yep.
shave off a second. 3, 2, 1.
114.
Oh,
Still not
we are
listening to me.
still in Classic Who, but we have arrived at Logopolis. Oh my.
Oh my god.
More
Okay.
Anthony Ainley as the Master. This is his
Yeah.
first appearance, not first as the Master, but the first full-on story with him as the Master. So, because he briefly appeared as the Master at the end of
Indeed.
Keeper of
And
Traken, as we talked about. Yeah.
and
Wow.
long-time Pull to Open listeners know how much I love Logopolis. I've mentioned it several times. Indeed, even in reference to Legend of the Sea Devils.
Yeah. This is
right, in this
interesting.
very episode.
This is our second regeneration episode, because we did the 10th planet. Yeah. And I don't think we've done another one. Yeah.
Unless you count Day of the Doctor.
Right. You could count Day of the Doctor. That's true. Barely. But no, I think in terms of official regeneration episodes, this is our second one. Yeah. Wow, big one too. Tom Baker.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting into that and digging into that meal. I've been waiting kind of my entire life to talk at length about Logopolis with anyone who will listen. So I look forward to doing that.
There is a lot going on.
With you.
This is a lot of interesting things in Logopolis, and it's got some of that Christopher H. Bidmead magic that putting concepts that you might not otherwise think about into a story. And I think, as I recall, a good chunk of it works. We'll see if it still works, though. It doesn't hold up here in 2022. I don't know, but you will know the next time you come and listen to us, because that's what we're going to be talking about. This is it for this episode, though, guys. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Pull to Open, the podcast. Hey, it's a podcast. It is something you might actually want to subscribe to if you haven't done that already. Go ahead and tap it in your app, or go ahead and, there's a little, I think it's a bell. I should really say on our own YouTube channel. There's a subscribe button. There's a like and subscribe, and the bell is for notifications. That's how it works, guys. Do that. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Turn on the notifications. Go ahead and leave a review. Leaving reviews is good and healthy and might actually get you a prize. Reviews are great on the Apple store, but feel free to leave them wherever you want. And we're never telling you what to write. We'd love to hear from you no matter what you think, but we do have a special place in our heart for those 5-star reviews. So feel free to leave one of those. Follow us on social media. We're at Twitter and Instagram at Pull2Open63, and on TikTok, our most active network, at Pull2Open. And that is where we are at. See you next time for Logopolis.
Bye. Looking forward to it. Bye, everyone.